What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the King's Court podcast, presented to you by SacktownRoyalty.com and sponsored by RateCrushers.com. I'm your host, Vince Miracle. You guys can follow me at all social media platforms of @VMCenter. Joining me today and making his King's Court debut, a colleague of mine over at Sacktown, Leo. What's going on, buddy? Uh-oh, I think I might have lost him. Right off the get. Let's see. Double me. Leo, you still there? He's frozen. Leo, if you can hear me, I would hang up and call back in, bud. Let's just go ahead and go to the highlights then, guys. Let's go ahead and get it into the highlights.
Way too comfortable early in this game for my comfort.
Man, Fox and Sabonis last night were absolutely insane. They were absolutely insane. I couldn't believe it. Just Fox splitting through traffic, finding the open guys. You had Sabonis. I mean, the hard traps that they put on Curry, too. Right when he would touch the ball, seeing 9 3-pointers in him and then to just attack him like that. So smart. So smart. Again, it was an impressive win by the Kings. I left the game going, okay, I understand. I understand what you guys are trying to do now. I understand the development here. And that's all I've been asking for since I started talking about this team. When Mike Brown signed on, was I just wanted to see an identity built, and primarily on the defensive end. And their defense wasn't perfect, but how can you be perfect against the reigning champs? How can you be perfect when you're playing against two of the best shooters in NBA history? That's the big question for me, is how do you expect to the Kings to be perfect when, again, they're playing against the best shooters in NBA history? Leo, can you hear it? Can you hear me? Can you see?
I can. Yes, I can see. It's a bit choppy, but I'm on, and I can see the graphics and everything. How's it going?
Perfect. Now, without further delay, let me welcome you guys once again to the King's Court podcast, presented to you by SacktownRoyalty.com and sponsored by Rate Crushers. We are live not only on YouTube, but on Twitter Spaces as well. If you guys can do us a huge favor and hit that thumbs up button, and if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe for us and keep this show growing. Leo is a colleague of mine over at Sacktown Royalty. He's been there since last season, I believe, just covering this team in depth. Leo, this Kings team is now 6-2 over their last 8 games. How impressed have you been with this Kings team?
It's been super impressive. I mean, even in their 4 losses, I felt like there were some, positive signs and positive things we could take away. But, historically, we've just gotten accustomed to those moral victories. So it's good to see the team actually putting what we saw from those losses into wins and actually coming out with the W's, because, it's been great. It's also great just to see the team close games, because every single game really this season has been close, with the exception of that Memphis game. But I woke up today feeling really good. How about that?
Yeah. I think if you're a Kings fan and you got to see that beam in the sky, whether you were at the game or not, I think it's pretty funny that they're using the beam to light up Sacramento after every Kings win. And I think knowing that they were playing the reigning champs for the 3rd time already this season, the drama that happened the last time they played, to see them squeak out this victory again. And I was just saying during the highlights, Leo, I don't know if you got to hear me, but I was impressed with the Ox and the Fox throughout that game. Yes, their defense was improved. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. It's hard to be perfect when you're playing against the reigning champs, when you're playing against arguably the best shooting backcourt in NBA history. But it was a step finally in the right direction of development and really proving that this team could be a potential playoff team this year. Do you agree?
Definitely. I mean, I don't even think the Kings necessarily had their best stuff yesterday, and they still came out with a 7 point win, which is just really impressive. And yeah, like you said, Fox and Sabonis were just really impressive last night. I mean, Sabonis especially, like he had some struggles early this season, but man, he's really turned it on, especially with the rebounding. So that was great to see. And as far as Fox, like there's just something going on with him at the end of these games where he's just you can just see the confidence like beaming out of him. Like you saw it again yesterday. Like he was having a probably like a so-so game into crunch time, and then in crunch time he just hits like 3 or 4 big huge buckets. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was great to see.
Yeah, it was really cool to see De'Aaron Fox kind of turn that switch on in the fourth quarter. I feel like we hadn't seen that in a little while, especially with the drama that happened last season. And we definitely haven't seen it to the point where the Kings were winning games when he was doing these fourth quarter moments. And to see him take over and to hit what was arguably the pivotal shot in that mid-range jumper in that fourth quarter with right around 2 minutes left, he gets that screen from Domantas Sabonis. And you saw Mike Brown tapping his head, which I guess that play means isolation for Fox. Hit that mid-range jumper right there at the top of the key because they ran it back-to-back times. One time it goes in, one time it doesn't. But that one time it went in, I think it changed the game for the Kings.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I didn't notice that call, but I guess that would make sense. I mean, he just has been so ice in his veins in these fourth quarter moments. Yesterday it was like that, but man, that Laker game, especially like Laker game was it was an insane takeover. Like I don't know if I've seen him do that in a Kings jersey. So yeah, it's been great to watch Fox this year.
How impressive do you think Sabonis has been over these last few games? Because I thought, and I talked about it over my last show when it was the one right after Grant Napier. And if you guys haven't watched that interview, you guys go check that out. But I talked about how the Kings can't do anything until they figure out what they're going to start doing defensively. And I think defensively, I thought they should take a page out of what the Blazers are kind of doing, which is give them looks of a little bit of zone, then switch it back to a man. Make the opposing offense feel a little uncomfortable of not knowing what defensive set they're going to have to attack so that their play calling is different. And over these last couple of games, you've really seen them. They did it a little bit against the Magic where they were doing a 2-3 zone. But here against the Golden State Warriors, they're running a box and one. They're going 2-3 zone. They're going man-to-man. They're hard hedging and trapping on Steph Curry, automatically getting the ball out of his hands. Do you think Mike Brown's defense is finally starting to be showcased after, what is this, game 10?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's improvements if you notice. I do think that with Sabonis as your center and as your backline defender, it's going to be tough to ever be like a great defensive team. But it's with the Kings being so good on offense, you don't have to be great. You just need to be about average if you can. And there've been more signs in recent games that they can be close to about average with Sabonis. And yeah, I think Mike Brown was pretty determined after that Warriors game. What was it, a week ago? Where like nobody else on the Warriors did anything against the Kings, but Steph had 47 and the Kings lost. I think he was pretty determined. Like let someone else beat us. If we're gonna lose, we lose. But Steph hit some crazy shots with guys draped all over him. But for the most part, it's going to be hard for even one of the greatest players of all time to hit shots with guys draped all over him. So, yeah, I think Mike Brown adjusted, which is, kind of rare to see from a Kings coach.
Yeah, I think running that zone and giving them that looks definitely helps out Sabonis. You can't keep putting him in these situations where he's the guy that is coming up on a pick and roll and they're getting that switch, because every time they get that switch, a guard gets the switch of Sabonis, they're going to beat past him. They're going to blow by him. They're going to finish around the rim. They're going to draw in a double team and find the open guy. And I think switching to this box and one, these 2-3 zones, it allows Sabonis to be more of a help side defender and do the one thing that he actually is good at, which is positional defense down in the post. He's a strong, bulky guy that knows how to stay in front of his man. That's the one good defensive attribute that Sabonis does have, is just he knows how to throw his weight around down low. I think we should continue seeing more of this. And I think following a victory against Mike Brown's former team, the Golden State Warriors, that's going to be obvious, correct? Oh no, I think we might have lost Leo again. You know what? Let me figure out if Leo is still there. We're going to go to a commercial break to Rate Crushers, and we will be right back after this 15 seconds. Look, technical difficulties, guys. We're getting it figured out. Leo will be back on once again. You're listening to the King's Court podcast presented to you by SacktownRoyalty.com. Here he is once again. Let's go ahead and get him over to this screen. Let's see. Leo, welcome back.
Thanks. Yeah, some technical difficulties there, but we got it ironed out a little bit. I'm on my phone, so you get the zoomed in. That's why. But I think we're in the middle of talking about Sabonis, right, and his defense.
Yeah, for sure. And if you think that the Kings, following a victory against the Golden State Warriors, they're going to continue running that box and one or that 2-3 zone, just continuously switching up their defense and not so much relying on, Sabonis to be playing on a man and being able to be stuck in those switches, that he keeps getting beat and looking poor defensively.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll continue to do that. That might have been a Steph-specific thing. But, I think, they showed that when there's a guy like that is just pretty much unguardable one-on-one, then they have that option, especially with Sabonis on the floor. I do think, I think I was in the middle of saying, Sabonis was getting in so much foul trouble early this season. Not only his fault, but it was the fault of Kings guards because they were just getting blown by constantly. And Sabonis was just being put in a compromising situation where he just had no choice but to foul. And I think you see, I don't think he picked up too many fouls yesterday, but that's kind of a positive indicator on how well the Kings defense is going to perform is how many fouls does Sabonis get, and is he on the bench late in the game with 5 fouls? So
I wasn't really too concerned about Sabonis. I knew Sabonis and the type of player that he is, and we saw how effective the Ox and the Fox can be last season. And another thing that was showcased a lot during last night's win was they finally went back to that pick and roll between the two of them, more so than I think in any game this season. And once again, it proved to be effective, and it proved almost to be, at least against this Warriors team, unstoppable. Because when Fox got down low, he was doing whatever he wanted down there, and it didn't necessarily mean scoring the basketball. He set up a lot of hockey assists. He set up a lot of open shots for guys like Keegan and Kevin Huerter. I think what they've done and what Mike Brown has done is and this is just over these last couple of games, right? Yeah, they're 6-2 over their last 8. So you have to analyze that and say what's been working. And I think the one thing that you can say that they've been trying to utilize is Sabonis' screens without it being only him and Fox, because the relationship that seems to be growing between Huerter and Sabonis has been something fun to watch, to finally have someone that could shoot the ball out of that pick and roll, right? And then even more so now with Monk getting more control of the basketball and having more time with the ball in his hands, he's starting to facilitate more, but also just getting that open look. He has such a quick release. How impressed have you been with Mike Brown's offensive sets now over this 6-2 run?
Yeah, it's been impressive. It seems like so many of the possessions start with Sabonis handling the ball at the top of the key and kind of setting a screen, doing a DHO with Fox or Huerter or Monk. And usually off of that, good things happen. Sabonis is a pretty good screen setter, and he can, pass if he has the ball out of the top of the key. So it just really unlocks the offense. And yeah, like you said, the Huerter-Sabonis two-man game has just been beautiful to watch. It just seems like even though this is their first season together, it seems like they have a really nice chemistry on that. And I remember when Sabonis was in Indiana, he was really good at that with Justin Holiday and other shooters, where they would just run the
get guys wide open looks just off of Sabonis like DHO, and it's good to see that he's been doing that with Herter. Like that's like I think probably what you want to do a lot of the time. That's probably the Kings' best offense for a lot of the time. Maybe not their best, but just having Sabonis just make decisions at the top of the key. Like you usually trust him to give the ball to the right guy. So yeah, it's been fun to watch him after kind of a slower start to the season for Sabonis.
Do you think the slow start, though, was just because of how much basketball you played over the summer, playing for his national team, his home team, and doing things like that, to where you knew he was going to find his legs? It just took a little bit of time?
Yeah, I wasn't so much worried about him. It was just he didn't really seem very aggressive to me. Especially when he was in the paint and he had mismatches. Like he wasn't really punishing guys like we saw when he came over in the trade. But it was only a few games, so I wasn't really worried. Like he's got years of being a really really good NBA player. So I knew he would come around a little bit. But yeah, it could be partially the playing overseas this summer and just getting his legs under him. But a lot of it is just like there's a lot of new guys on this team, and just finding that chemistry. It definitely takes a while, and I'm sure it'll continue to develop throughout the season. But yeah, it's good to see him kind of be more comfortable. Especially with the guy we traded for him, what he's doing right now. It's you feel a little bit more peace of mind with Sabonis producing at a high level.
Do you think that maybe how do I put this? I don't think it's ever going to go away. The conversation between Halliburton and Sabonis in that trade. But I'll be honest, I'm over it. Like, the trade was made, and you got to think about it like this, too. Like, when the Kings made this trade to acquire Sabonis, they also got off a lot of cap space because of what they let go on Buddy Hield. Without making this deal to get Sabonis, the Kings, I don't think, would ever go after Kevin Huerter. I don't think that they would have really made the decision to go after a guy like Malik Monk because of what they needed to address. They knew they gave up their best shooter in Buddy Hield, and I think they got a better fit with Kevin Huerter because of the way Huerter is able to put the ball on the ground and kind of facilitate, and he's kind of been like this like Walmart version of Gordon Hayward in Sacramento, and it's fit perfectly next to Fox. So it's a win-win on both sides. I think the big part of it comes down to will Sabonis resign, and then that's when that conversation will be had. But at this point, the Kings are winning. Halliburton's flourishing over there, although the team's not winning. But it's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, the Pacers I think have the same record as the Kings, but trades can be win-wins, right? Like it's not always like this team got robbed. This team is, it's not always so one-sided like we often make it. But yeah, Sabonis is a better fit, I think, on the roster. I think trades don't. I don't think you figure out who won, quote unquote, won the trade until like years down the line because you just never know with these things. But yeah, I mean, Sabonis re-signing him is going to be huge. But I think he just is on offense at least. He's just such a seamless player to fit around. Like he makes guys better. And Tyrese makes guys better, but it's in a different way, especially with the Kings already having De'Aaron Fox. Like Tyrese and De'Aaron, it was probably best for both of them to find new homes. As great as Tyrese was for the Kings, and as great as he's been for Indiana so far, it's probably best for both of their careers that they kind of branched out and got their own team. But yeah, I think the trade will just be a constant. It's going to be like the Luka pick, right? Like it's going to be. It's going to just be a thing. I mean, for good or bad, I mean, it's just going to be a thing. Every 30-point triple-double Tyrese has, there's going to be people saying, "Oh, the Kings! I can't believe, LOL Kings!" And every 20 and 20 Sabonis has, there will be some Kings fans clapping back. So I think that's how it's going to be for a while. And I hope the best for Tyrese, but I think the Kings did get a really good player in return for him.
Look, since we're talking about it. Did you hear the comments that he made on the JJ Redick podcast?
Yeah, I heard them. I mean,
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Like the Kings did have a bad culture. They are trying their best to get out of having a bad culture. But until you prove that you are a quality team, like the bad culture is just going to continue to go throughout your team. And I mean, there were just bad vibes last season. You go into the season with Heald and Bagley with one foot out the door. It just didn't. It wasn't a environment conducive to success or making the playoffs. And I'm sure now that Tyrese is playing under Rick Carlisle with a pretty. I mean, they got some talent over there. I'm sure he's it's the Pacers situation this year is a lot better than the Kings situation last year. And I mean, it's pretty evident. But
Yeah, I mean, Tyrese is going to be Tyrese. The one thing that Tyrese is doing now that he wasn't doing in Sacramento is he's shooting the basketball a lot. I believe in their previous game, he had 8 3-pointers and hit 3 of them. He's shooting the ball a lot. He's getting 20 and 10. He's going to look amazing. I'll even put it to you this way as well. And I know a lot of people will just think I'm simplifying it a lot, but if a player who always has the ball in their hands doesn't produce, then there's an issue. We knew when Sabonis was going to, or when Halliburton had the ball in his hands, he was going to be able to put up numbers. So that's not really surprising to me. The fact that the Kings are figuring out how to win with Sabonis and Fox, that's what needed to happen because it showed that they weren't winning with Halliburton and Fox next to each other. Fox is more productive when the ball is in his hands. That it just is what it is.
yeah, like I said, it's just a better fit for both players to have the ball in their hands. Neither guy, even though Tyrese can shoot, he's not really as effective if he doesn't have the ball. And with Indiana, he gets to have huge usage and lead the league in assists. And I mean, we don't have to harp on this trade too much, but yeah, it's it could be a win for both teams, like I said.
Exactly. Well, look, the Sacramento Kings now are faced off with a very tough couple of games here. I mean, it's not as bad as I think the start of the season was. And look, even with the start and which it was, like you said, they showed signs of life, but it wasn't like they were in a spot where they weren't being at least a bit competitive. But they have one more tough game, and then they have a few winnables in there. And I think over these next 3 games, I think the Kings have a really strong chance of being above 500 after these next 3 games. So look, we'll look forward here. Wednesday, it's the TNT game. They're facing off against the Brooklyn Nets. Will Kyrie be playing? We still don't know. I'm going to assume no at this point. But Kevin Durant's just been phenomenal. Ben Simmons coming off the bench now. Then they have the Spurs on the 17th, which I believe is on Thursday. So that's a bet. Or what is that? That's Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday, Thursday. And then the 20th, they have the Detroit Pistons. Thoughts on these next 3 games?
Well, I think there's 3 winnable games right there. And, as we know, as followers of this team, you can't really just mark a win down in permanent marker. This team has looked better, but I'm not at the point where I'm penciling in wins over the teams that the Kings should theoretically be better than. On Thursday, the Nets have been playing a lot better since firing Steve Nash. I mean, they're still kind of in a funky spot, and that's a game I'm sure that the crowd is going to be extremely pumped up for that one. And it's one I think the Kings should win. Will they win? I mean, you never know. Kevin Durant could 50 points and the Kings could lose.
Tuesday against the Nets. Are the Kings favored in that game?
I think they would be favored probably by 2 or 3. Just because, what was it? Last night the Kings were 4.5 underdogs. 4.5. I think coming home, Nets team probably without Kyrie. I think it'll be close, but I think the Kings will be a slight favorite, which probably they should be. If they think the Kings have been really good against the spread this year, something like 7-2 or something. Or
yeah, they're killing the spread game. They're killing the spread game, especially if you're betting priors. If you're betting in game, it could be a little bit of a coin flip. But pre games, they're right on there right now. I think it still could be -115 to -115, and that means it's a straight pick 'em. No real actual line. If there is a line, man, I feel like odds makers love Kevin Durant, and that gives them that edge. Because look, I'll even tell you this: as soon as you're playing at home, you're a 3-point favorite. Then you start looking at the matchups based. They should be able to dominate the glass. I mean, look what Anthony Davis just did to them. Man, that's going to be tough. But Sumner might be out as well. You might be right. I think that the Kings could be a 3-point favorite here.
I think they'll be a favorite. I mean, I think just looking at their last few games, I mean, I know it's the Lakers, and the Lakers have been horrible this season. But what were they, like a 4-point favorite in that game on the road? Like
Yeah.
that's not typically see. So I think
No LeBron
reverse-
in that game though.
what's that? Yeah, he didn't play that game, but it's still Kings at the Lakers, regardless of who's in those jerseys. So it's I think the Kings will be favored, but I guess we've got to wait to see Kyrie's status.
Are you interested at all in the Marvin Bagley being back and them facing off against him and the Pistons?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe he's still out, right, with an injury.
I believe he might be coming back. Let me double check because he was listed as, what was it, probable? So maybe it's today he comes back. I'll look up that right now. But let's say he does play. Are you interested in seeing Marvin? Like, is that a storyline you're watching heading into that game?
Oh, I mean, him playing in Golden One Center, one of his first games back this season. Like, I mean, I'll definitely be interested in it. The Pistons have not been very good this season. I mean, they're a young team, so it's kind of expected. But yeah,
So
I mean,
played.
I'd be interested in. But
He played against Boston on the 12th, so 2 days ago, and he plays. He's expected to play today against the Toronto Raptors. In 17 minutes, he went 2 for 5 from the field. He had 4 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 steals. Not too bad.
yeah, I guess he's back then. I didn't even know. But yeah, I'm excited to see that. I wonder what kind of crowd reaction he's going to get. I'm sure it'll be mixed. But yeah, probably more negative.
What's the bigger storyline in your opinion? Marvin Bagley playing against the Kings or Jaden Ivey versus Keegan Murray?
I mean, they're both just storylines, right? But for me, I'm more interested in watching the Ivy versus Murray because before the draft, I was pretty big on Ivy. I liked Keegan, but I just long term, I liked Ivy's upside a lot more, and Keegan has been really solid for the Kings. So kind of being proven wrong, although Ivy's been pretty good as well. So I'm more excited about that. I think that's going to be electric, especially because Ivy and Fox will be matched up a lot of the time, and that's just probably two of the 3 fastest guys alongside John Morant in the NBA. So I'm more interested in watching Ivy play than Bagley. But hopefully Bagley doesn't drop 20 and 10. That would be a bit demoralizing.
Let me ask you this question because I know we got to start wrapping it up here. If I didn't ask this, I think fans would be kind of mad because I keep avoiding this real conversation of Harrison Barnes. I did a pregame show over there with Leo Biaz at Cowbell Kingdom prior to the Kings win over the Cavs, and already people were talking about the benching of Harrison Barnes. And I said, if there was anybody else struggling to start a season, you would say give them 15, give them 20 games. Let there be time. 2 out of these last 3 games, Harrison Barnes has scored 20, 13, and 9, but has really made his presence known defensively. Is Barnes a key player for you this season for the Kings, or do you think he's that tradable piece for the Kings that you're expecting him to be moved potentially at the deadline?
For me, like I kind of advocated for trading Barnes last season and the season before, and at this point, with him not playing the best and on an expiring contract, I'm not even sure what you could get for him. You might be able to add something to him, maybe get a guy on a longer term deal. But yeah, I would expect him to play better than he has, only because he's played horrible. Like I was right. I was doing some stat research for an article, and I think he's shooting 40% from the field, 22 or 23% from 3 right now, and a lot of those looks are open too. So he's definitely somebody I'll be watching. I mean, I guess just that role this starter, whereas somebody I'll be watching going forward. But I'll give him a little bit more time. But it hasn't looked great for Harrison.
Yeah. I think it's again, shoot or shoot. The shots have been open. He's there. He's a little bit older. He's a veteran. But I'm not giving up on HB just yet. I do think he is a trade candidate though, and I do think he is someone that with that deal, someone's trying to get cap space for next season, the team looking to make that type of move. There could be something there. And I talked about it in our Slack chat for Sacktown, right? And I'll put it here once again. Would you be open to the idea of trading Harrison Barnes and Davion Mitchell who we that's another show that I can't wait to have a conversation about. But would you trade those two to, let's say, New York for Mitchell Robinson and Cam Reddish?
That's interesting. I mean, I don't think that the Kings really need another center necessarily. If I was trading Barnes, I would want to get wing back, and I get that in Reddish. But, that's like an iffy one for me. I think that's probably a deal that both teams say no to. But it's interesting for sure. I mean, Reddish has been playing well this season in spots. So I guess if you put the metaphorical gun to my head, I would say yes, only because I like Reddish. But I'm not super interested in Mitchell Robinson, especially with he can't really play with Sabonis, so it's kind of an odd fit right there. But yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued by the idea of trading Barnes for something, but I don't know what the right package is.
Yeah, I think if you really want to find a way to make a bold move and you're the Kings, and I don't know if it's every time I play the goodbye music, it cuts your audio out. I'm going to try this one more time because we are about to get ready to sign off here. But I think the best way to make a move if you're the Kings is to make the ultimate package, which would be able to get off Rashawn, HB, and Davion. And Davion would be a key piece. And not saying that I would want the Kings to go out and trade Davion, but I know that his defensive presence and what he can bring to a team that needs that type of player could get them back a nice haul somewhere. Because Rashawn Holmes, as much as we haven't seen him, and a little bit of a disappointment that he's been since getting that contract and last year, and again, I can make plenty of excuses for last year in his favor. This year, he just hasn't even really cracked the rotation. And I still feel like he's a very serviceable super sub big when given the minutes, and he can help a lot of teams. I just don't know where that would go. I mean, Phoenix was a team I brought up, but what could you really get back, from a team like Phoenix? Does a Shamit or anything like that make you better? I don't think so. You know what I mean? So those are the little things you got to keep in mind. Also, if everyone wants to talk about Kings trading picks, they're tied up, and unless they're going to call Atlanta and say, we're going to give you this 1 year of a pick since how they acquired Herter. So these are like the little questions I have in my mind. I think the best trade is going to be somewhere out there in Utah. And if you can somehow pry away a Lauri Markkanen, and because that team isn't going to look to keep winning. I know that they're winning now. They're not saying it. But acquiring a Lauri Markkanen to fill that 4 spot, move Keegan to the 3, or even getting like a Talen Horton-Tucker that's getting very limited run off the bench, maybe there's something there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there could be something there. I mean, that's more of a question for February. Maybe, there's some guys who gotta say, and we got a lot of that. Yeah,
Leo, man. So I'll be 100% honest with you. The mics are cutting out a little bit, but I think that's just time. We're at that point now where it's time. Everyone go follow Leo on Twitter at LeoTalk. He is writing as well with me over there at sacktownroyalty.com. You got an article coming out today, correct?
That is correct, yes. Stay tuned for that.
So article coming out today. What's that one going to be about?
It's about Mike Brown finding his 9/10 man rotation and sticking with it and having success.
Perfect, man. You guys go check that out over at sacktownroyalty.com. Look out for the work. Go give him a follow on Twitter at Leo_Toke on Twitter. I've been your host today. My name is Vince Miracle. You guys can follow me on all social media platforms of at VM Center. Shout out to our sponsors, RateCrushers.com. If you guys are looking for any type of insurance, whether it be motorcycle, car, renters, leisure, the brokers over at Rate Crushers have you covered, beating up the competition by 35%. If you haven't done so already, guys, please do us a huge favor and hit that thumbs up button here on this video. And also, if this is your first time and you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, bro. That's my YouTube voice, Leo. You like it? Subscribe button, bro. Smash it, bro. Smash it, bro. You guys go ahead and do that for me. It keeps growing up the show. And I said, if we can get to 400 views, I'll give out 2 tickets to another game this season. Hey, who knows? I might do it sooner than that. But the goal is to hit 400 subscribers by the time this year and this calendar turns over to 2023. So I would appreciate all of that support. Thank you to everyone that listened on Twitter Spaces as well live here on YouTube.com. Look out for the new iTunes links for the show that will be coming out this week as well. And until next time, Sacramento Kings fans, peace.